Good morning, students. Last time we were discussing about some common human diseases. So we are left with some of the diseases which we are going to discuss today. So the first disease of this class is ringworm. Ringworm is basically a fungal disease. It is caused by a fungi. There are lots of fungi which are responsible for causing this ringworm. They are of different genera like Microsporum. So the fungi that are belonging to genera Microsporum are responsible for causing ringworm. If we want to discuss the symptoms of the ringworm, the common symptoms which are going to appear are the skin is going to be the part where infection is taking place. That part of the body is going to be dry. It will start appearing dry. There are scaly lesions on various parts of the body, like most commonly it is going to occur on skin, nails and scalp, under our hairs. So these are the common areas of our body where ringworm is going to occur. These dry and scaly lesions, this part, the part that is going to be infected, is going to show itching. There is intense itching, and if outer atmosphere is hot and humid, this hot and humid climate is favoring the growth of fungi, means the infection is going to increase under hot and humid conditions. And if you talk about the the method of or mode of transmission, how this disease is transmitted. So you see, it is basically transmitted either from the soil, when individual is coming in contact with soil, or when we are going to use clothes, or you can say towels of an infected person. So due to or by the use of fomites of the infected person. So this is how ringworm is appearing and the symptoms are present. The next disease is chikungunya. Chikungunya is a viral disease that is caused by a virus. The virus that is responsible for causing chikungunya is commonly known as chikungunya virus, or it is also known as alpha virus. Chikungunya virus, or we can say alpha virus. Now the mode of transmission of this disease is mosquito. Now we are going to discuss lots of disease like chikungunya is there, then we are going to talk about dengue, malaria. In all these diseases, the vector, or you can say the mode of transmission, is with the help of mosquito. Now it is not necessary that only one single mosquito is involved in the transmission of all the diseases. There are different mosquitoes that are involved in transmission of disease. How these mosquitoes are involved? Simply they are going to bite an infected person, and when they are going to suck the blood of infected person, they are going to carry this virus, or you can say the infectious agent in their body. And when this same mosquito is going to bite a healthy person, they are going to introduce this infectious agent inside the body of healthy individual. So that's how they are transmitting a disease from an infected person to a healthy individual, and again the healthy individual is having that infectious agent in his or her body, so that individual is also going to show the symptoms of that particular disease. So this is how mosquito are involved in more transmission of various diseases. So here also mode of transmission is with the help of a mosquitoes, that is Aedes aegypti. So Aedes aegypti is responsible for the transmission of chikungunya from a infected person to a healthy individual. If we talk about the symptoms of these disease, what are the symptoms that are going to appear? So fever is there, that fever is followed by joint pain, there is severe joint pain and conjunctivitis. Conjunctivitis simply means in eye inflammation, there is redness that is going to appear in eyes. And if we talk about simply the prevention, then if we are going to destroy the breeding places of mosquito, then also there will be prevention of chikungunya. So chikungunya can be prevented by simply destroying all those places where mosquito is going to breed, or to destroy the larva of these mosquito. Now the next disease is dengue. So the third one is dengue. Dengue is again a viral disease that is caused by a virus, that is Flavirribo virus. Now one thing is common between chikungunya and dengue, that is the organism that is helping in the mode of transmission, means Aedes aegypti mosquito is also responsible for transmission of dengue. Now dengue is of two types. One is classical dengue fever, means what happens in dengue, an individual is going to show very high temperature, there is attack of fever. Now that fever is going to be of two types, or you can say dengue is of two types. One is classical dengue fever or classical dengue disease, and that second one is hemorrhagic dengue. So one is classical and second one is hemorrhagic dengue. Now the classical one is less severe as compared to the hemorrhagic one. So the symptoms that are going to appear in the classical dengue are, again there is high temperature, the individual is going to suffer from fever, then muscle and joint pain is there. There are rashes that are going to appear on the chest and upper limbs of the body. Rashes on chest and upper limbs. Other than this, the individual is going to lose the sense of taste. Again, vomiting is there, nausea is there. So these are some of the symptoms of classical dengue. When we talk about the hemorrhagic dengue, these symptoms are also seen in an individual. Along with this, there are some more severe symptoms that are going to appear. These severe symptoms are bleeding through different parts of the body, like mouth, nose. So bleeding is going to occur. Vomiting, here a normal vomiting is there, here frequency of vomiting is going to increase. So more frequent vomiting will be there. So these are some more symptoms, and other than this there is increased thirst because of dryness of mouth. And obviously the individual is going to become weak. So these are some of the symptoms of the hemorrhagic dengue along with the classical symptoms of classical dengue. Now prevention, the method of prevention is again the same. That means if we are going to remove the breeding sites of Aedes aegypti, then the mode of transmission is going to stop. So this is how dengue can be prevented. Now we are going to discuss about malaria, and one important thing about malaria is that in malaria we have to discuss the complete life cycle of its causative agent. So we are going to discuss malaria in detail today. Malaria is basically found in temperate and tropical regions. It is a disease that is very much common in the tropical and temperate regions. If we talk about the causative agent of malaria, then malaria is caused by Plasmodium. Plasmodium is the infectious or causative agent of malaria. This Plasmodium is going to produce toxins inside the human body that is responsible for malaria. So it is the toxins produced by Plasmodium which is responsible for the cause of malaria. Now let's talk about the mode of transmission. Here also transmission is with the help of a mosquito, but that is different from chikungunya and dengue. It is female Anopheles mosquito. Now again, what female Anopheles mosquito is doing? It is also going to bite an infected person, and when it is going to bite an infected person, it will carry the Plasmodium with the blood of the infected person. Now when this female Anopheles mosquito is going to bite a healthy person, it is again going to introduce this Plasmodium in the blood of that healthy individual. So this is how that healthy individual is also going to, you can say, suffer from the symptoms of malaria. This is how female Anopheles mosquito is responsible. Now if we are saying female, that means male Anopheles mosquito is not acting as a mode of transmission for malaria. It's only the female Anopheles mosquito. Now the symptoms which are going to appear in the initial stages, there is feeling of unwellness, like headache is there, nausea is there. So individuals start feeling, yawning is there, tiredness is there. These are the initial symptoms which start appearing in an individual. Tiredness, headache, these are the initial symptoms, and later on there is high temperature, means attack of fever, and during the attack of fever a individual is going to feel chilly and shiver. So chilling effects are there and shivering is there. So there is high temperature that is having a chilling effect and shivering that lasts for some time, and after that the temperature is going to again come normal. So it is all Always note that the individual is going to have high temperature. There is a time period when high temperature will be there, and again the temperature is going to be lowered down and become normal. So cooling will be there, and again after an interval of time this same fever will be repeated. So what we are going to see in the disease malaria, there is repetition of fever after certain interval of time. We will see that which plasmodium is taking how much time. So these are the symptoms of malaria. Now if we talk about the species of plasmodium, we are having 4 species of plasmodium that is going to show different type of malaria. One is Plasmodium vivax. Plasmodium vivax is responsible for the cause of benign tertian malaria, that is going to attack after every 3rd day, that means 48 hours. Fever is going to come in every 48 hours. The second one is Plasmodium ovale. That is also responsible for benign tertian malaria, and again the attack is after every 3rd day, means it is also taking 48 hours. The next one is Plasmodium malariae. This Plasmodium malariae is going to cause quartan malaria. And it is going to attack after every 72 days, after every 4th day, that means taking 72 hours. And the 4th one is Plasmodium falciparum. This Plasmodium falciparum is responsible for causing of different type of malaria, and the most severe one that it is going to cause is malignant tertian malaria. And this malignant tertian malaria is again going to occur after every 48 hours. So these are the different species of Plasmodium which are responsible for different types of malaria, and these are going to attack on different time intervals. The incubation time period for Plasmodium is, the incubation time is generally 10 to 14 days, means after an individual is getting infected, it is going to, he or she is going to start appearing the symptoms of malaria in 10 to 14 days. Now we have to study about the complete life history of Plasmodium. So I am taking Plasmodium vivax and I will describe the complete life history of Plasmodium vivax. This Plasmodium vivax is going to complete its life cycle in 2 hosts and in 2 phases. There are 2 phases in which it is going to complete its life cycle, plus there are 2 hosts, means it is digenetic. It is using 2 hosts. So the 2 phases are asexual phase and sexual phase. And sexual phase. Now the point is that in which host it is going to complete his sexual phase and in which host it is going to complete its asexual phase. So let's see this. The two hosts are, one is human being, means man is there, and one is mosquito. Two hosts are there. So we need to remember that this plasmodium is going to complete its asexual phase in men and sexual phase in mosquito. So asexual phase in men, and the host in which a organism is going to complete its asexual phase, that host is known as secondary host, or we can say intermediate host. So simply we need to remember that man is a secondary host or intermediate host for plasmodium. Now the remaining part is the sexual phase. So sexual phase is completed in mosquito by plasmodium. So it is in mosquito. And the organism that is going to, or you can say the host in which a infectious agent is going to complete its sexual phase, that host is the primary, or you can say final host. So mosquito is acting as primary host or final host for plasmodium. So we are going to study both the sexual phase and asexual phase of plasmodium. Now if we define the phases, then we are having three phases in which plasmodium is going to complete its life cycle. These three phases are, the first one is known as schizogony. The first phase is schizogony. What this schizogony means? It simply means that asexual multiplication means increase in number. So asexual multiplication of plasmodium that is taking place in human body. Asexual multiplication of plasmodium in men, that phase is known as schizogony. The second one that happens after schizogony is gamogony. Gamogony is the sexual phase that is going to occur in the mosquito. Sexual phase of plasmodium in mosquito. This sexual phase is going to start in mosquito and it is going to end up in mosquito only. Now the third one is sporogony. Sporogony is again the asexual multiplication of plasmodium, but this is going to take place inside the mosquito, not men. So asexual multiplication mean multiplication of plasmodium in mosquito. So we are going to discuss these three phases in detail. I am repeating it again. First one is always schizogony, that is the asexual multiplication of plasmodium which is taking place in men. The second is gamogony, the sexual phase that is going to occur in mosquito only. And the third one is sporogony, again the asexual multiplication, but that is taking place in mosquito. So asexual multiplication is taking place in both men and mosquito, while sexual reproduction is only taking place in mosquito. So we are starting with the first one, that is schizogony. So let's start with schizogony. This schizogony is going to occur in two steps, two phases. First is known as exoerythrocytic schizogony and second one is erythrocytic schizogony. So, the first one is exoerythrocytic schizogony, or we can say hepatic schizogony, and the second one is erythrocytic schizogony. What it simply means? It simply means that this is the phase that is going to, hepatic means liver. This is the phase of plasmodium that is going to occur in the liver cells. That's why it is known as hepatic schizogony, or it is known as exoerythrocytic. Erythrocytes are responsive, or you can say erythrocyte word is showing our RBCs. So, the schizogonic phase that is taking place outside the RBC. That's why exoerythrocytic schizogony or simply hepatic schizogony. So, here RBCs are not invaded. Which cells are involved? The liver cells of the individual are involved. Erythrocytic schizogony, that is going to occur after exoerythrocytic schizogony, and it simply means here RBCs or erythrocytes are involved. So, first we are going to talk about exoerythrocytic schizogony and then about erythrocytic schizogony. So, that is the asexual multiplication that is going to occur in men. How this exoerythrocytic schizogony is going to start? It is going to start simply when a infected, or you can say when a female Anopheles mosquito that is carrying plasmodium in its mouth is going to bite a healthy individual. So, when an infected female Anopheles mosquito is going to bite a healthy individual, it is going to, the saliva of the mosquito and blood of the human being is coming in contact with each other. So, the plasmodium is going to enter inside the bloodstream of a healthy human individual. When this plasmodium is entering inside the blood of an healthy individual, it is at a specific stage and that is known as sporozoite. So, at this stage, at the stage of sporozoites, the plasmodium is going to enter inside the human blood from the female Anopheles mosquito. Now, this sporozoite, initially it is going to be elongated with tapering ends. This is how the sporozoite is going to look like, and it is present in the bloodstream, but after biting, means after half an hour, it is going to leave the bloodstream of the individual and it will enter into the liver cells. So, initially that was injected in the bloodstream, but after half an hour, or you can say 1.5 hour, it's almost 1.5 hour, these sporozoites, they are almost 100 of sporozoites are added in one bite. So, these sporozoites are going to leave the bloodstream and they are going to enter into the liver cells. So, initially they were present in the bloodstream. Now, they are going to enter into the liver cell, and after entering into the liver cell, they are going to change their shape. Initially they were flat with tapering ends, now they becomes circular, round shaped structure is formed, and these are known as cryptozoites. So, round structure is formed by these one, and now these are known as cryptozoites. Now, these cryptozoites, they are present in liver cell, so they are having lot of things to consume. Glycogen is there, fat is there, cytoplasm of the cell is there. So, they are going to feed on all these things, feed glycogen, fat, cytoplasm, and because of this continuous feeding, they are going to enlarge their size. So they become big in their size, and this is known as formation of schizont or merones. Whenever, remember, just whenever the schizonts are formed, these schizonts are capable of showing multiple fission. So in various stages we are going to discuss this schizont. So schizont stage always means that size has become enlarged and now it will undergo multiple fission. So how multiple fission will take place? Multiple fission generally takes place by continuous multiple nuclear divisions. So one nuclei is going to divide multiple times. So multiple nuclei will be formed. And these multiple nuclei, they will be surrounded by cytoplasm. This is how multiple fission take place in schizont. And now they will be forming tiny parasites, or you can say tiny plasmodium, and when this schizont is going to break down, these parasites are going to again released. There will be lots of tiny parasites, or you can say tiny plasmodium, which are going to be released in the liver sinusoids. So I am revising up to here. Simply, when an infected mosquito is going to, Anopheles mosquito is going to bite a healthy individual, that is introducing the sporozoites inside the bloodstream. After 1.5 hours, they are going to leave the bloodstream and they are going to enter into the liver cell. In liver cell, the structure is going to be changed. That becomes more spherical or rounded structure, that is known as cryptozoite. Now these cryptozoites are going to increase their size by consuming glycogen fat, cytoplasm of the liver cells, and after increasing their size, they becomes the schizonts. These schizonts are going to show multiple fission in which lots of tiny plasmodiums are going to form, and these will be released in the liver sinusoids. So let's see what happens next. So they are present in the liver sinusoids, and from these liver sinusoids they are going to infect the new liver cells, and when they are going to enter into the new liver cells, here they are known as metamerozoites. These are called metamerozoites. Now what happens? Now again these metamerozoites are going to enlarge in their size. They are again going to form schizont, and they are again going to show multiple fission. And when they are going to show multiple fission, what happens over here? They are responsible for the formation of merometa, or this is metacryptozoites. So that whole thing is taking place in the liver cells. They are known as metacryptozoites, and when they are going to form the schizont and multiple fission, they are again going to form thousands of metacryptomerozoites. Now what happens over here? Two types of metacryptomerozoites are formed over here. These are differing in their size. They are micrometacryptomerozoites and macrometacryptomerozoites. So this is in the liver cells. Simply they are small in size, that's why they are known as metacryptomerozoites, and they are large in size, that's why they are known as macrometacryptomerozoites. merozoites. Now this whole phase up to here, we are talking about exoerythrocytic schizogony. Exoerythrocytic schizogony is also divided into two phases, that is pre-erythrocytic schizogony and post-erythrocytic schizogony. We are saying pre because here RBCs are still not invaded. That's why this is whole about the pre-erythrocytic schizogony. Up to here there is no invasion of RBC, that whole thing is taking place inside the liver cells only. But after the formation of these micro and meta-cryptomerozoites, what will happen? The macro one are, means these one, they are again going to infect new liver cells. They will remain inside the liver, and whenever an individual is taking medicine, they will be not affected by the medicines. So when an individual, we think that individual is getting treated from malaria, and when the immune system is going to be low again, that means they are again going to infect new and new cells, again going to multiply, and again the individual is going to suffer from malaria. So they become, or you can say they hide from medicines, or they are having no effect of medicines. So that is the macro-meta-cryptomerozoites. What these micro-meta-cryptomerozoites are going to do, they are going to invade, means again they are not going back to the liver cells, now they are going to invade the RBCs or erythrocytes. So after invasion of erythrocytes, that part of schizogony, exoerythrocytic schizogony, will be the post-erythrocytic schizogony, because here invasion of RBCs has taken place. So now when RBCs are invaded, that means what is going to happen? This is the after invasion, this is the post one, and after invasion of the RBCs, we are going to enter into the erythrocytic schizogony. So erythrocytic schizogony is going to take place inside the RBCs. This was exoerythrocytic, and now the erythrocytic schizogony. So that is occurring in the RBCs, and these RBCs, they are infected by, or they are invaded by micro-meta-cryptomerozoites. Now again these micro-meta-cryptomerozoites are going to form a circular or round structure inside the RBCs, and they are known as trophozoites. So a rounded structure will be formed, and now they are known as trophozoites. Again, what is the ability of these parasites? To engulf more and more substances and to increase their size. So here also they are going to feed upon the cytoplasm of the RBCs, different components that are present in RBCs. And the next stage is the signet ring stage. How this signet ring stage is formed? It is simply formed because a large vacuole will be present, and presence of this large vacuole is going to push the nucleus on the periphery. This is a large vacuole. So this trophozoite is going to develop a large vacuole, and because of presence of large centrally vacuole, the nucleus will be pushed on the periphery. That is giving a signet ring stage. Further, it is going to develop more and more. This vacuole will disappear and the structure will be irregular, and that will be the amoeboid stage. So how amoeboid stage is going to occur? Amoeboid stage is going to occur after disappearing the appearance of the vacuole, and the shape will become irregular. So this is how it is going to develop stage by stage. So continuously they are consuming cytoplasm, the RBCs, they are increasing in their size. So they are consuming everything, but they are responsible for the breakdown of hemoglobin that is present inside the RBCs into a yellowish brown pigment, that is hemozoin, or sometimes into a black pigment, that is melanin. So these are going to be formed and they are going to be present inside this trophozoite. Now what happens? Again this trophozoite is going to consume everything and is responsible for the formation of schizont. And we know what is going to happen inside the schizont. Multiple fission is going to take place. So here also multiple fission will take place, and because of this multiple fission there will be production of again tiny plasmodiums known as merozoites. So thousands of merozoites will be produced. Now when multiple fission was taking place inside the schizont, because of this multiple fission all the cytoplasm is not involved in multiple fission. There is small amount of cytoplasm that does not take part in multiple fission, and around this cytoplasm the merozoites are going to form a circle, means they are going to arrange like this way, and this is known as rosette stage. And after that there is rupturing of RBCs, means the number of merozoites are increased, so rupturing of RBC take place and these merozoites are going to come out. When rupturing of RBCs takes place and merozoites are going to come out, at that time the individual is going to feel that chilling effect and fever is there. Now because of again these merozoites are going to enter into more and more RBCs, they are going to rupture these, increase in number, rupture the RBCs. So after this interval of time the individual is going to have that chilling and fever effect, and because of continuous rupturing of RBCs the individual becomes anemic, anemia is there and weakness is there. So this is how erythrocytic schizogony is going to complete. This is the asexual multiplication of plasmodium that is occurring in human beings. Next comes the sexual reproduction, or you can say sexual multiplication, that is going to occur inside the body of mosquito. So what will happen next, that we are going to discuss in gamogony.